Welcome back to Talk Tickers. You know what we do here, right? We take earnings calls
Break them down.
and figure out what's actually going on.
That's right. And today, we're diving into Pan American Silver's Q4 2024 results.
Get ready for some big numbers.
Huge. We're talking record-breaking revenue.
Really? Okay, so give me the highlights.
All right, so they reported revenue of $815.1 million for Q4.
Wow.
Yeah, and a massive $2.8 billion for the full year.
That's a lot of silver. So what's driving these numbers?
Well, their acquisition of Yamana mines last year is definitely a factor.
Right, that was a big deal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it's not just about adding assets.
So are they getting more efficient with their existing mines?
Exactly. They actually exceeded their own guidance for 2024, producing 21.1 million ounces of silver.
Impressive.
And a record 892,000 ounces of gold.
So they're not just growing, they're also optimizing.
Yeah, they're firing on all cylinders.
Okay, so let's get into some specific. What projects contributed to this success?
Well, remember that upgrade they were doing at the La Colorada mine in Mexico?
Oh yeah, that was a major undertaking.
Well, it's paying off. They hit their target of 2,000 tons per day throughput, thanks to that new ventilation infrastructure.
It's huge. More throughput means more silver, right?
Right. And lower operating costs.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
Speaking of costs, anything else they did in 2024 to manage expenses?
Yeah, actually. A couple of things.
Like what?
They finished a new filtration plant at Huaron.
And what does that do?
Improves recovery rates and reduces water usage.
Ah, so better for the environment and the bottom line.
Exactly. And they also completed a paste backfill plant at Timmins.
Paste backfill.
Yeah, it's a technique where they mix mining waste with cement and pump it back underground.
Interesting.
Yeah, it helps stabilize the mine and can even extract more metals.
So they're really thinking long term. Okay, let's talk money. What kind of cash flow did Pan American generate in Q4?
Another record, $274.1 million in Q4.
Wow.
And a whopping $724.1 million for the full year.
That's a lot of cash. What are they doing with it all?
Well, they announced a $0.10 per share dividend for Q4.
Nice. And what about buybacks? Are they still buying back shares?
Yep, they've bought back about 2.6 million shares since March 2024.
They've been pretty consistent with those buybacks.
Definitely. And since 2010, they've returned over $1 billion to investors through dividends and buybacks.
Showing some love to their shareholders.
Absolutely.
So looking ahead to 2025, what are they expecting?
Pretty steady year, actually. Silver production should be between 20 and 21 million ounces.
Okay, and gold.
Between 735,000 and 800,000 ounces.
So, business as usual.
Pretty much. But there are some interesting things happening at specific mines.
Let's hear it. What's going on at La Colorada?
Well, they expect to produce between 5.5 and 5.8 million ounces of silver there.
Solid numbers.
But here's the catch. They're actually planning to reduce production slightly this year.
Reduce production? Why would they do that?
It's a strategic move. They found some high-grade zones to the east, and they want to capitalize on those.
Ah, so it's about long-term value creation.
Exactly. They're willing to take a short-term hit to maximize those long-term gains.
Smart move.
Definitely.
What about Jacobina? What's happening at their Brazilian gold mine?
They're projecting 185,000 to 195,000 ounces of gold from Jacobina in 2025.
Okay, and what about those optimization studies we've heard about? Any updates?
Yeah, they're looking at a few things. Stabilizing the plant's throughput, potentially adding a paste plant for the underground mine.
To improve recovery rates?
Yep. And they're also evaluating a potential filter plant for tailings disposal.
It sounds like they're leaving no stone unturned.
Definitely. Always looking for ways to improve.
Now let's talk about El Peñon in Chile. They had some issues there initially, right?
Yeah, some spacing problems after the acquisition.
Have those been resolved?
They have. El Peñon is running smoothly now.
Good to hear. What are they focusing on now?
Exploration, trying to extend the mine life.
So more ounces, more years of production.
That's the goal.
Okay, before we move on, I want to touch on one more thing. Timmins.
Ah, yes. The Timmins district in Canada.
Newmont sold their assets there to Discovery Silver, right?
Yep. And that's created some interesting opportunities for Pan American.
How so?
Well, they're now neighbors in the Timmins district,
Right.
and that opens up possibilities for collaboration.
Like what?
Optimizing operations together, sharing infrastructure, maybe even joint ventures.
So, a potential win-win for both companies.
Exactly.
Okay, last but not least, Escobal in Guatemala. What's the latest there?
Still a bit uncertain, unfortunately. They're still waiting for approval to restart the mine.
No timeline yet from the government.
Not really. But Pan American is staying engaged, attending meetings with the government and Xinca representatives.
And what about the mine itself? Are they keeping it in good shape?
Absolutely. They're investing in care and maintenance to ensure a smooth restart once they get the green light.
So they're ready to hit the ground running when the time comes?
That's right.
Always prepared. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. It's clear that Pan American had a phenomenal year in 2024.
And they're setting themselves up for continued success in 2025. They're setting themselves up for continued success in 2025.
Absolutely. Now, I want to kind of shift gears a bit
Yeah.
and talk about some of the challenges and opportunities facing the entire mining industry.
Ah, the big picture.
Exactly. So what are some of the biggest hurdles for miners right now?
Well, inflation is a major concern.
Yeah, it's hitting everyone these days.
Right. And it's particularly tough for miners because of all the heavy machinery, fuel, specialized labor.
It all adds up.
It does. So how is Pan American dealing with these inflationary pressures?
Right. Are they doing anything differently from their competitors?
Well, it seems like they're taking a multi-pronged approach.
Okay, walk me through it.
First off, operational efficiency.
Ah, like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Those investments in upgrades and new technologies are helping keep costs down.
Makes sense.
Then there's their approach to capital allocation.
Okay, what's their strategy there?
Well, they've got a pretty healthy balance sheet. Actually, a net cash position.
So they're in a good spot?
Yeah, it gives them flexibility to weather any storms.
Smart.
And on top of that, they're being very selective about their growth investments.
So they're not just throwing money at any project that comes along?
Nope, they're targeting assets with strong returns that align with their existing portfolio.
Strategic.
Definitely.
So it sounds like they're being proactive about managing the challenges.
Absolutely. But what about the opportunities?
Ah, right. The flip side.
Is there anything on the horizon that Pan American's well positioned to capitalize on?
Any bright spots for the mining industry?
Absolutely. One big one, the demand for metals is still strong.
Especially precious metals like silver and gold.
You got it. And that demand's driven by a few factors.
Like what?
Well, there's a lot of global economic uncertainty out there.
People are looking for safe havens.
Exactly. Plus, there's geopolitical tension and the growing demand for green technologies.
Oh, right. Silver is a key component in things like solar panels.
And electric vehicles.
So Pan American's not just producing valuable metals.
They're also part of the solution for a more sustainable future.
That's a good angle.
Right. And speaking of sustainability, they mentioned it a few times during the earnings call.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that too. How are they incorporating it into their operations?
It's definitely a growing focus for mining companies.
And it seems like Pan American's taking it seriously.
They are. They're investing in renewable energy sources to power their mines.
To reduce their carbon footprint.
Yep. Plus, they've got water conservation programs and community engagement initiatives.
So they're trying to build strong relationships with the communities where they operate.
That's right. It's not just about being a good company.
It's about being a responsible one.
Exactly. It's essential for the long-term viability of the industry.
Investors are definitely paying more attention to these factors these days.
They are.
Now, before we get to our This Is Not Financial Advice segment,
The wildest part of the show.
I want to talk a bit more about Pan American's portfolio. They've been pretty active with acquisitions and divestitures lately.
Yeah, they have.
So what's their strategy there? How do you see their portfolio shaping up going forward?
Well, it seems like they're focused on building a portfolio of high-quality, long-life assets.
Assets that will keep producing for years to come.
Exactly. They've sold off some non-core mines and invested heavily in projects like La Colorada and Jacobina.
Those are their crown jewels.
You could say that. And remember that Yamana acquisition?
That was a bold move.
It was. Shows they're not afraid to make big plays to reach their goals.
So they're being deliberate, strategic.
Definitely. It'll be fascinating to see what they do next.
Speaking of fascinating,
Yeah.
let's take a quick break and then come back with our outrageous but plausible trade idea for Pan American Silver.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to Talk Tickers.
All right, time for everyone's favorite segment,
You know that this is not financial advice.
where we let our imaginations run wild.
And cook up some outrageous but plausible trade ideas.
Exactly. So, are you ready for today's wild scenario?
Hit me with it.
Okay, picture this. Pan American Silver,
Yeah,
flush with cash.
they do have a lot of it.
They decide to go all in on the Timmins district.
Timmins, they already have a mine there, right?
Yeah, Timmins West. But I'm thinking bigger.
Like how much bigger?
Much bigger. Remember how Newmont sold their Timmins assets to Discovery Silver?
Yeah.
What if Pan American decides to consolidate the entire district?
Whoa, you're talking about a mega mining hub.
Exactly. Merging with Discovery Silver, maybe acquiring some other smaller players.
Becoming the dominant force in Timmins.
That's the idea. Imagine the economies of scale, the shared infrastructure.
That's a lot of moving pieces, though. Wouldn't that face some serious regulatory hurdles?
Of course. Antitrust concerns, environmental regulations, community relations. It wouldn't be easy.
Definitely not. But hey, this is not financial advice, right?
That's the beauty of it. We can dream big.
All right, so let's play along. What would Pan American need to pull this off?
Well, for starters, strong leadership with a clear vision.
Makes sense. They need someone to steer the ship.
Then they'd need to secure the financing. But with their balance sheet, that might not be too hard.
True, they're in a pretty good position financially.
And finally, they'd need to build strong relationships with the local communities.
Address any environmental concern.
Exactly. It would be a huge undertaking, no doubt.
But if they could make it work,
It would be a game changer. For Pan American, for the Timmins mining industry, for the whole region.
a consolidated Timmins district could become a model for sustainable and efficient mining.
Absolutely.
Okay, listeners, before you rush out and buy Pan American stock based on this crazy idea,
Please remember,
this is purely hypothetical, not financial advice.
just a little thought experiment.
A way to spark your imagination and get you thinking about the possibilities.
Who knows, maybe someday this outrageous trade idea will become a reality.
Stranger things have happened.
That they have.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Pan American Silver's Q4 2024 earnings call.
We covered a lot of ground.
From their record-breaking financials to their strategic growth plans.
And even a wild speculation about a Timmins mining mega hub.
It's been a fun ride.
As always, we encourage you to do your own research before making any investment decisions,
And be sure to tune in next time for another episode of Talk Tickers.
where we'll break down more earnings calls and explore the exciting world of investing.
Until then, happy investing.